plant friends, it's a repotting day. I've got plant chores. I've gone around the house and scooped up all the plants that require repotting. And a planty friend gave me this box of cuttings, so we'll dive into this and repot any that's needed. Let's dive into the plant chores. First up is the Sansevieria pinguicula, and this is the one that walks outside of the pot. I've had it for about a year and it started to put out an offshoot, so I'm excited to get this one repotted. Purchased it at Harper's too. Okay. I'm very curious on this one. Not too bad. Potted up in like a peaty mixture. I don't see any more new growth or offshoots coming from this plant. I want to expose a little bit of the root system when I repot. I'm thinking I really enjoy the roots being exposed just a tiny bit. The substrate is nice and rich, so I'm going to incorporate some of this into my mixture, and I'm also going to pot it up in a terracotta pot. These provide a lot of airflow around the roots since they're quite porous. I'm potting it up in potting soil with a lot of perlite. Plant friends, you also have some questions for me, so I will be answering some questions as we go along with this repotting. This is about a 5-inch terracotta pot, so lots of rooms for this Sansevieria and its little pup. And I'll keep it in this pot until it provides a little bit more offshoots. Let's sprinkle a little bit of that in here as well. And at this point, I'll add in a little bit of the Osmocote slow release fertilizer. I think this is just about the right height where I can see just a little bit of roots. And do I want to move this over a little bit? No, I think I'm satisfied. The little pup has enough room and the mother plant is pretty much in the center. We'll top it off with a little bit more soil. And we'll pack it in to keep it nice and sturdy. First plant is done. We're on to the second plant, which is this Pisonii, and we're also on to our first question, which is, do I find it difficult watering my plants, and how many hours I spend per week on plant care and watering? Pisonii has been in this pot for about 2 years. Beautiful root system on this baby. Definitely ready for that repotting. She can use a little bit more room, and she's going in a terracotta pot. This is such a beautiful succulent, and terracotta is perfect because I don't want to overwater it. So plant friends, I spend about 10 minutes per day looking at the plants. And that 10 minutes include observing the plants, watering any plants that need watering. Some plants are not on a schedule, so I pretty much do a field test to see if they're droopy to know which ones to water. At the same time, I'm also looking for any pests or any issues. On Sundays, I do a more thorough inspection of the plants. That's when I will spend about 30 minutes to go through all the plants in my collection, and that includes watering and possibly rearranging. My watering technique is pretty easy. I've got a number of plants that are already in trays, so I bottom water. Pretty much flood the tray with water, and any excess water I extract with a turkey baster. It makes it nice and easy, so I'm essentially watering maybe 6 to 10 plants all at once in the tray. So it only takes a couple of seconds to water 10 plants. Plants like the African violets, those are in self-watering, so I just top that up whenever that's needed, and that can be done within my 10 minutes throughout the week. Nice and easy to top those off with a turkey baster, and I fill my 2-liter bottle of water and just go around the house and make sure everyone gets a little bit of drink whenever they need it. So per week I spend about an hour and a half taking care of the plants, making it nice and easy. Now let's tackle the spiral cactus. This one has grown quite a bit. She is a little bit thin on the top, so definitely could benefit from a new pot where she'll get a little bit more nutrients and consistent watering. I don't want her to dry out quickly. So a larger pot and a more sturdy pot as well. She's quite top heavy right now. And look at that beautiful root system, well established. Now this pot has no drainage hole, and I think it would be perfect for the spiral cactus. I do find that the spiral cactus is quite thirsty in my environment. A little bit of slow release fertilizer. And you'll notice I'm using the same mix for all my cactus and succulents. It's potting soil with a lot of perlite, and that seems to work well for me. I'm not worried about overwatering because some of the pots I'm using terracotta pots, and for this spiral cactus it's a thirsty plant, so it will enjoy being moist for a little bit longer. But at the same time I'm going to be cautious and keep in mind that this does not have a drainage hole, so I will be very sparing when I water this plant. Part of being cautious with watering this plant is that I'm going to come by and feel the plant to see if it's soft. This one is a little bit soft right now, so it could use a nice douse of water, especially being a new substrate. When it's nice and firm, I know that it doesn't need any water. I think next we'll tackle an orchid, and this one is definitely due for a repotting. It's the amazing Thailand. She's bursting out of the pot. We'll tackle the next questions, which is, if you promise yourself 45 minutes of housework and you look at the clock and 30 of those minutes have been spent caring for your plants, does that count as housework? Beautiful root system. This one's in like a fine bark. I won't disturb the roots much. The substrate looks great. All that's needed is a little bit more room for this plant to thrive. Really, I would like to pot this in a terracotta pot because that would be more sturdy for the plant. Well, for me, but I like the way the roots look in a plastic pot, especially for the calatheas or the Calathea alliance plants. And it allows me to keep track of how the roots progressing in the media. So we're going with this larger plastic pot, which is about 5 inches. I think that will be sufficient for the plant for a couple of years. This is going to be potted in a super chunky mixture, which I know this plant will love. They've got some rocks in here, lava rocks, charcoal, orchid bark. It looks like some coco coir. It's just a nice happy mixture for this calathea. Now let's get into the question. I feel this question requires some sort of mathematical equation where T equals time, P equal plants. Nah, I'm joking. Let's not do that. Plant friends, I really enjoy this question. It's really a nice brain teaser, isn't it? We use the house plants to decorate, so you do need to dust, organize, arrange, plant styling, and water. Could you imagine if you don't maintain the plants? Then your house would be pretty much a mess, wouldn't it? So maintaining the plants within that 30 minutes time definitely counts as housework. And the bonus, it counts as therapy as well, especially if you talk to the plants. So within 45 minutes, you're able to get your plant chores completed, as well as organizing the house and doing your plant styling. An absolute genius way to time manage. Taking these pseudobulbs keeps the plant a little bit more organized and less likely to topple over. Also, if it blooms, it gives the flowers a nice support. Aerial roots left to be aerial roots. We'll continue with that. This root is pretty much dead. It's really wiry and papery. I think this one can be removed. I just love seeing those nice healthy root tips on this plant. And I'll give it a good soak after as well. I think the plant will really enjoy that. Plant friends, since we're all pretty much plant styling, housework, plant chore, multitasking experts, comment below and let me know your thoughts on this question. Does it count as housework? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And we'll put this guy to soak for a little bit. Next, let's tackle this Schilleriana. Oh, plant friends, Schillerianas and I are not best friends. I find these to be quite challenging. I got this one as a little seedling, and so far so good. I'm not going to disturb her roots. I'm just going to up-pot her into a larger pot. Root system looks great. So a little bit of a dieback on those, which I can trim up a little bit. And that's about it. Oh, I love seeing that she's got some new roots coming in. I'll trim that one, and that roots look fantastic. And she'll be going in a plastic pot, one with limited drainage holes. I find that the Schillerianas can be quite thirsty. They do like to stay more on the moist side. And I'm keeping the same media, sphagnum moss. Next question is, what do I do for a living? Well, I work in financial operations, primarily focus on payment alignment and transactional accuracy. So basically, I assist maintaining financial records. Plant friends, I love me my numbers. That's why when I go plant shopping, I'm focused on price, and I'm always comparing the price between stores in my head to make the right financial decisions when purchasing a plant. Julie, let's move this to the back a little bit because the leaves tend to droop. So they'll be able to stay firm with the sphagnum moss, and they'll have a little bit of support from the edge of the pot. I'm going to loosely and lightly pack the sphagnum moss around the existing root ball. I've not dampened the sphagnum moss, so it will expand a little bit. Next, let's take a look at this one. This is the Lupus grassa. An interesting little beauty. Vigorous roots on this one, so definitely time to be uppotted. You can see a lot of crinkled leaves, so she's not getting as much hydration as she'd like. Potted up in sphagnum moss as well, and I'm going to continue with the sphagnum moss. Wow, actually it's a mixture. Sphagnum moss, bark, moss on the bottom, bark in the middle, and moss on the top. And the roots are fantastic. The old pseudobulbs, you can rip a few of these off. They're mushy, but we'll get them out of there. Yeah, I won't disturb the roots. I think I'm just gonna add some more sphagnum moss around this root ball and call it a day. Let's see, I'm gonna go with a plastic pot. This size, I think this size is satisfactory for now, or maybe we should go with a little bit bigger. Oh, I think this is good. Concentrating on putting more of the sphagnum moss around the new growth. And the back bulbs we'll have towards the back of the pot. And just like that, she's repotted. This guy back here, repotted back in December. It's put out a significant amount of growth over the spring. It's the Promania xanthina. This one I got from Crystal Star. And it's a fairly reasonable orchid to purchase. Actually, the root system hasn't expanded that much in the bottom of the pot, just at the top. Maybe this one's staying a little bit too moist in the sphagnum moss. A lot of the roots are at the top, mainly aerial roots. You know what? I'm gonna move this over to a chunky media. Well, oh, here's some nice roots at the back. So I'll do a chunky media with just a little bit of sphagnum moss. I think we should just rejudge the media for this plant. And I'm going in a plastic pot this time, a clear plastic pot where I can see what's going on with the roots. The next question is, how did I get into plants? And I think with growing up in a tropical country, plants are something that is just constantly in your everyday life. And it was a big part of bonding with my mom as a child. We always had a garden where we planted vegetables and plants, flowering plants, fruit trees. And it brought a lot of joy. And I think that's just transitioned into my adult life. And we still do spend a lot of time plant shopping. And that's a really great way for bonding and just spending and enjoying life together. This pot is not much bigger, but it does allow for a little bit more airflow around the roots. Maybe that will encourage the roots to go a little bit deeper in the pot. The next question is, would I switch my Thai constellation over to self-watering? So far, I don't find that the Thai constellation has been very thirsty or hard to maintain hydration. So at this time, I don't believe I will switch over to self-watering. This little guy is Dendrobium Hung Fang, and it's grown a lot this spring season, so I definitely wanted to get it into a bigger pot. And I hear they're heavy feeders as well, so I want to get more media around a pot, more sphagnum moss, and mix in a little bit more slow release fertilizer. I want to see some beautiful yellow blooms on this come next spring. Look at that, she's even working on a new growth right there. And lots of beautiful roots. This pseudobulb is also new. Now let's gently get this mesh pot off. It's actually really thick, so scissors is just not going to cut it. Okay, she's slowly working her way out. Maybe we can gently pull, and we've got it. For this one, I'm going to also not disturb the root ball. What a beautiful plant. Clear pot. I think this will give it lots of room, and I'm going to sink it just a little bit. These like to crawl on the top of the media. It also would look nice mounted. Let's add a little bit of slow release fertilizer to the sphagnum moss. And we'll tuck the root or the root ball into the sphagnum moss. Oh, I think that looks fantastic. Move more of the sphagnum moss to the front. We'll sink it into the pot. I think we'll do a little bit more slow release fertilizer. Plant friends, next plant is one that's seriously been neglected. I've not repotted this columnia since I purchased it. Oh, do I dare say 3 years ago? It's still in the same little nursery pot. Wow, the roots are looking good. Definitely needs an uppotting. And she's in a little bit of potting media with lots of perlite, similar to what I currently have for my potting media. So we'll continue with that, and maybe we'll chop her a little bit as well. The next question is what type of potting media I use, and I use just the generic stuff. The Miracle-Gro potting media works great for me. I add a little bit of perlite if needed for more drainage, and that will do for the cactus and succulents. Like this Calaria, it's just being potted up in the regular mix with a little bit of perlite. Quite easy. And for the orchids, I'll do a little bit of orchid bark with sphagnum moss. I try to keep it as simple as possible and affordable as well. Let's see, we can trim this a little bit. It's a little bit bare and straggly in this area, so we'll cut that back. Not sure if this is one that's propagated by cuttings, but you know what? It doesn't hurt. It seems to be a tough plant, so this is the method I'm using. I'm hoping the areas that I snip will vine out and branch. I can clean this up a little bit. I'm hoping these little nodes will send out roots. Let's see what we've got here. This is a Dendrobium jenkinsii. I recently picked up this little guy from Crystal Star, and it's pushing out a lot of new growth. I want to get those fresh new roots in a larger pot or in some media as quickly as possible. I'm looking forward to some blooms on this next spring. Continuing with the sphagnum moss for this beauty, and she'll be potted up in a plastic pot. The next question is, how do I handle pests? And that is a big question, especially the thrips. For pest control, my first line of defense is to wash down the plant. I'll take it in the shower and use the shower to gently beat away any pests and larvae. Additionally, I will spray the plant down with some hydrogen peroxide. Wipe the leaves down with Clorox wipe. My next course of action is to spray down with some insecticidal soap, or you can even use horticultural oils. So if I find that horticultural oil, insecticidal soap, wiping down with a Clorox wipe, beating the leaves off in the shower, I am going to go with beneficial insects following. And now for the beneficial insects, I like to purchase it directly from the manufacturer. I don't participate in any of the group buys or purchasing from third-party vendors. I find that the bugs that you receive from the manufacturer themselves are more active, and you know the shelf life for those beneficial insects. If you're getting it from the manufacturer, you know that they haven't been sitting around for a long time. You know that they're ready, active, and ready to go and attack those bugs. So I like to spend the money and get it fresh from the manufacturer to tackle the pests. This beauty is the Maxillaria tenuifolia, otherwise known as the coconut orchid. You can see some of the dehydrated bulbs on that, which is fine. When you see that, don't try to overwater the plant to fatten those bulbs up. Sometimes they won't revert. What you've got to do is maintain the plant and concentrate on the taking care of the new growth that will come. If you focus on the dehydrated bulbs, you tend to overwater and rot the roots. I can see a little bit of desiccation on some of the roots, but I do see beautiful active grow tips and new growth as well. I'm potting her back up in sphagnum moss and in a terracotta pot. Terracotta pots are nice and sturdy. These maxillarias, I find that they can get a little bit wiry, and if they thrive, they tend to fill up the pot. And with the sphagnum moss, I can control the moisture. Sphagnum moss, I find it's quite easy for me. What I will do is wet the sphagnum moss, and I'll come back and feel if the sphagnum moss is crunchy, then I know that it needs to be watered. If it's soft and it still has a lot of moisture in it, then I don't need to water the plant. Now, when you're treating pests, it's not a one and done treatment. You've got to follow the treatment process. It might take a full 6 months to a year before you fully eradicate any pests. This little beauty is the variegated Maxillaria tenuifolia, also a recent purchase from Crystal Star. Lately, I've been very drawn to these coconut orchids. A few dried media, but I do see lots of nice happy grow tips here. Okay, so the roots are doing great. And once again, I'm going to ignore the desiccated pseudobulbs and concentrate on the new pseudobulbs that I might receive from the new growth. And this one will be potted up in sphagnum moss and in the terracotta pot. I think, definitely need a little bit of a bigger pot. I was able to find a larger pot, and this one looks like about a 4-inch pot. A little bit of slow release fertilizer. The next plant is Dischidia plantaphylla. This one I picked up at Hemans on one of the plant shopping trips. It's an interesting Dischidia or Dischidia, one that I've had in my collection before, and I've regretted giving this plant away. So when I saw it, I had to pick it up and add it back to the collection. Now, let's repot and see what the roots look like. The plant is growing nicely, and the roots look really good. I'm surprised that it is potted up in more of a peaty mixture. I'm wondering if I should put it in soil or sphagnum moss. I think I'm going to leave the root ball as is and pot this beauty up in sphagnum moss. Looks like we've got a number of plants in here as well. You know what? Let me separate it and see how many plants we've got in this. So we've got a total of 3 plants. Not bad. A lot better than I thought. Okay, so I am gonna go with a chunky mixture on this one. I'm gonna do some potting soil with a bit of orchid bark and a little bit of sphagnum moss. Generally, these guys are epiphytes and they grow in trees. So a little bit of potting soil that has perlite. We've got some sphagnum moss. Let's do some chunky mixture, orchid bark, charcoal, lava rock, and we've got the sphagnum moss, as well as the substrate that it was potted in. nice mixture, well draining, at the same time water retentive, and I can watch this plant and see how it does. Well, friends, I really don't follow any of the planting rules. I pretty much go with what I feel like and see how the plant does. You know, if it declines, it's something that I can change, or if it thrives, then bonus. I don't have to worry about the plant at all and just enjoy it while it grows. I'm going with a terracotta pot. I know the terracotta pot's very porous. For now, I don't want to overwater this plant. It's a good little option to go with. Actually, let's do 3 different types of pots. Yes, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to plant them in 3 different pots and 3 different media. Maybe one is sphagnum moss. We'll pot them separately, just in case. Insurance. If one doesn't make it, we still have 2, or if all 3 make it, bonus. Next, let's try some sphagnum moss. And you know what? I'll use this terracotta pot. Let me wash this out. Nice and clean. There's no drainage hole in this pot. Not something that I'm worried about because I'm very careful with watering. How cute. Third plant will be a mixture of what I've got on the table already with some potting soil. And we'll just lay this across the media. Next is Bulbophyllum carinum. Before we get into that little goodie box, this one I got from Crystal Star back in the spring. She's thrown off 2 little bulbs, which is wonderful. I love seeing that. So it's time to get her into a larger pot. This guy seems to be happy in my care. It's sitting in the IKEA cabinet under grow lights for about 10 to 12 hours each day. I like that it's in sphagnum moss already. And we'll get to our final question before we get into the goodie box. And this looks good. Beautiful, just gorgeous. The way those new pseudobulbs are protruding from the main stem. Now this guy will be potted up, and what should we pot it in? I'm running out of pots. Bovophyllums tend to like it moist, so I am going with a glass container. I purchased these for my African violet for self-watering, but it's gonna work in this situation. Lots of room for the Bovophyllum to expand, and it's gonna be potted up in sphagnum moss. I like that I'll be able to keep an eye on the root system. And with sphagnum moss, this will dry out fairly quickly, but I can monitor as well to see how much it's dried out, and I'm able to water at any time. This one's going right in the center because these pseudoballs will scramble across the top of the pot. The next question is, will we ever be able to see your face? From the plant goodie box, we've got these Hoya cuttings. They've rooted quite nicely, sphagnum moss. I'm thinking these don't need to be repotted at all. They can thrive in this little sphagnum moss propagation station until they lengthen and vine out a little bit more. So the Hoya cuttings look like we've got the Hoya fungi. I can see a little new growth right there. And I'm not sure if the name of this Sunstress Red Beauty is certainly scrumptious. I wonder if that root is from the Sunstress. Pretty much goddess looking plant. Really nice. I won't disturb it. I'll let them just continue working on their root system and hopefully devour the pot. Then I can consider repotting. I want to see some new growth on this Sunstress plant first before removing it from the propagation. But nice to see that new growth on the fungi. Plant friends, I don't know. I might be slowly replenishing my Hoya collection. It's off to a good start. Next, we've got the Silver Hero. Silver Hero is already nicely potted up. It looks like there's a few more cuttings in here of the Silver Hero, so I would like to pot them all together. Oh, this little one back here is easy to access. This one is a Monstera albo. She's got a nice root right there, and roots, ooh, look at those roots. Really beautiful. This is ready for repotting. Here are potted up or rooting in water. Oh, look at that leaf. That's a beautiful plant right there. And lots of gorgeous roots. A syngonium, nice root system right there. And there's some more down here. It's going to be interesting to pot up. Possibly a reverted syngonium albo. Oh, take a look at this. This looks like a Monstera stanleyana. She's got some roots on her. The Silver Hero. Another Monstera stanleyana. I think should I keep this one in the propagation for a little bit longer? Well, she does have a root there. Yes, we can pot that up. Chores verde. I'm working on a new leaf. Gorgeous roots. Another Silver Hero cutting. Oh, this one will pot up very nicely. Chores verde. The Monstera. Billetier. That's what this beauty is. Nice firm leaves. So we've got an older leaf and the new growth. Wow, now this is gorgeous. Not sure what she is, if she's a Burlemarx or domesticum, but she's gorgeous. Let's get these babies potted up. Let's go ahead and put all these Silver Heroes together in one pot. I'm going to use the nursery pot that they came in. This one's got a nice healthy media. I can see some perlite, some mica pebbles, even some eggshells. It's pretty cool. That's something that I haven't ventured into, using the eggshells in my substrate. I will keep this in the propagation box that it came in. They're used to a lot of high humidity, so I'll continue giving them a lot of humidity. Plant friends, comment below if you know the name for this beauty. Definitely a philodendron, but I'm not sure of the name. I'm going to do something a little bit different with this one. I am going to pot it up in a glass vessel. It's going to be a mixture of potting soil with a bit of charcoal, bark, and lava rock. It doesn't have a drainage hole, so I'll be very sparingly with water. Such a beautiful plant. And back in the propagation box she goes. Plant friends, for the rest, the Syngonium, the Monstera, and the Boletier, I'm going to pot them all together. You know what? They all require similar care. And for me to keep track of these little beauties, one pot is going to be the ideal situation for these little beauties. And if you know me, you know I love a combination pot. So at the base of this pot, we'll have orchid bark, and this orchid bark mixture, I picked it up from Calasantes on one of my shopping trips, and it's an impressive mixture. I just love the substrate in this one. When I go back to Calasantes, I'm gonna have to pick up a few bags. Or if I see this brand at a local store, I'll have to grab a couple. And I'm also adding some potting soil in as well. Now let's throw in a couple of dashes of slow release fertilizer. I am very satisfied with this setup. I'll be able to keep an eye on these beauties. Eventually, I can add a moss pole and have them trail up the moss pole. I think that will look gorgeous. And back in the propagation box for these beauties. Finally, the Monstera albo. Wow, she's a beautiful plant. Let's see what we've got going on with the root system. I want to be very gentle, and of course I'm going to carefully work this root through this hole in the pot. And gently pry her roots from the side of the pot. Oh, she's absolutely loving this pot. Let's loosen her up. Okay. And that wasn't too bad. No roots were harmed. Wow, she's rooting very nicely. Okay, so we've got some perlite. I'm going to keep the perlite. She's going to be moved up to this pot right here. We won't pot this root. I'm going to keep that as an aerial root and a backup root. In case these rot, we'll have this root as a backup. Eventually, this root will work its way back into the media. I think that's a safe bet. For this, we're going with the chunky bark mixture. Actually, I'd like to see some of the roots at the side of the pot so I can monitor how the roots are growing. Roots looking good. A little bit of slow release fertilizer. And let's give this a good soak. Plant friends, I almost forgot about this little beauty. This little variegated guy almost got overlooked. I'm gonna pot it up in the chunky mixture, and we'll use this clear plastic pot so I can monitor the roots. Let's get her watered and she'll go right back into the propagation box. Plant friends, let's revisit these plants in another 6 months. So in December, we'll take a look and see how these plants are faring, and possibly another repotting for our Vlogmas series.